Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Burnsville Chamber Business Briefing. This is our monthly must-know program for business leaders. I'm Jennifer Harmoning, President of the Burnsville Chamber, and I'm so glad you're joining us virtually today. These briefings are designed to keep you connected, informed, and engaged with the important updates impacting our businesses, our schools, and our community. Here's what's on deck for this morning. We'll have an update from the City of Burnsville, an update from District 191 schools, a quick chamber update, and then our featured presentation with Scott Plum from the Minnesota Sales Institute. We'll wrap up with some time for Q&A so you can ask questions of our speakers. And so with that, we're going to kick off right away. Our first speaker is Dan Keeley, Burnsville City Council member. Dan will share some updates from the City of Burnsville, and then he will scoot off because he's setting up for the Burnsville Festival and Fire Muster this morning. Welcome, Dan.
Welcome. Thank you, Jennifer, and welcome everybody. I'll try and be brief as it's a busy day for us, including Jennifer. We have this is the opening day of the 2025 Burnsville Festival and Fire Muster. We open up at 5 o'clock tonight, and as you can imagine, there's a whole lot of prep that's going on after 6 months of prep that has been going on. All right, first, the biggest project in the city, a $98 million renovation to police and city hall, is well underway. The city council will have our first chance to do a tour of some of the construction area coming up on September 16th. We're looking forward to that. I was at City Hall yesterday and was going to various corners where you could see out into the construction area, and it's quite something. For those that weren't in last month's meeting, this is a 40-year capital renovation. The building was built in the late 80s. It has served us for nearly 40 years, and it needs it needs a lot of updating. There actually are some failing materials, moisture, those types of things with outside materials that are underneath brick or underneath other exterior layers. And so it's good that we're doing this, but it is to expand PD to accommodate our recently hired law enforcement officers and the future needs over the next 4 decades, and also City Hall, its needs to serve the community. There's a lot more community meeting space as part of this new City Hall design. So I think everyone, once it's open in a few years, I think maybe about 2.5 years, everyone will be pleased. And I think the community is going to really enjoy using it as a community center more than they are today because of the limited resources that we have. Our EDC, we've just gone through a gigantic economic development strategic framework, and our September 10th Economic Development Commission is going to take on that project as far as the next steps and for implementation. And at that meeting, they're also going to swear in some new commissioners that we appointed recently and elect a new chair and vice chair. And they're going to review a new land sale policy update that we're working on. We have pieces of property around the city that are not buildable. They might be a heavily sloped lot in an area that might have homes on either side, but quite an expanse. And there's been a lot of inquiries from people over time, like, would the city ever sell that, right? So a property owner might, acquire it. Various degrees of those circumstances are existing around the city. So we want to review our land sale property policy to be able to allow those types of things to happen. Today, it doesn't really accommodate those situations. We have a big deal, the home rehab loans. This is being funded by what we refer to as the acronym of LAHA. It's a housing program that the 2023 legislature authorized. It is part of the sales tax that everybody pays in the 7-county metro area. And we're receiving a little over $1 million a year. And so we already had some programs for seniors, for low income to help reinvest in a home, right? Make improvements so the home doesn't become sort of blighted in a neighborhood where the homes are all fairly well kept. And then you have one that's really kind of falling behind. So we're trying to create programs, low interest loans that wouldn't be paid back until the property is sold. And we had some new ideas like first time home buyer, down payment assistance. Those are the types of things you've seen, heard about potentially in larger cities or other metro cities, and we're working on putting one of those together. But um, we're basically expanding the funding program that's available for the senior and this low income one with this additional LAHA funds. The amount that we had allocated was relatively small. It was being utilized, but not fully. This additional funds will allow it to meet more needs and give us the ability to promote it a little bit better. Our planning commission met and decided to vote on a new chair and vice chair. And we now have Karen Braddock as the chair and John Hamilton as the vice chair. One of the things that they took up just recently was a very interesting project that came to the city. The owner of the Hampton Inn wanted to eventually close it as a hotel and reopen it as a mental health and drug rehab center. The lot of challenges with that on the surface. I'm sure people are thinking, what would that be like? A hotel turns into a drug and mental health rehab. It's got a lot of beds, a lot of rooms, of course. It has a lot of hurdles to go through. There are a couple of dozen conditions associated with it, but the council is going to take it up officially at the September 16th meeting. That might be one that's interesting to watch. It'll be a very interesting debate. Another bigger, broader project, many of us attend because we are members of the National League of Cities, and we were all witnessing that went all exposed to and watched a presentation by Tyler Technologies, which has a priority-based budgeting tool software program that uses AI to analyze programs, costs, and outcomes. And we were all very interested in looking at it more deeply and possibly using it as a budgeting tool because generally speaking, we have been 7% levy for the last 5, 6 years. It looks like we'll be that way through the next 2 or 3 years at least. And that's a little difficult to swallow. I mean, a lot of things um, supported us having to be there, and we used a lot of ARPA money to buy down the levy, so we didn't see the 12, 13, 10, 11, 12, 13%, 2, 3 years in a row. Some cities have, or 1 or 2 years. But that kind of levy pressure is tough. It's not sustainable over the long haul, right? We don't believe that 7% is the new norm, 3 or 4%, but it sure seems that way. So we're looking for tools to better help us identify where the priorities are and how we can better utilize our taxpayer funds to bring the services needed to the community. So that's going to be an interesting discussion about that software. We do have one apartment complex that is causing us a lot of problems. If you have been around, you know that 10 plus years ago, we had an apartment complex on the west side of town become so blighted, and there were so many safety issues that were not being addressed that we had to actually pull their license and they had to relocate every resident. That was the last resort. We didn't want to do it. We did everything possible to avoid it, and they just, quite frankly, weren't taking us seriously. And so we had to pull um, that particular right that the city has to get them to fix things. We've had a few others come through that process. Most of them have all fixed the things and not forced us into that position. We have another one that's not playing ball. We don't allow, um, you know, fire safety and health safety issues in our high density apartment complexes. So we don't want anything to do with Burnsville having stories of a apartment complex that would be in that sort of boat and having residents live in that kind of situation. So we are putting a full court press on this particular one. I won't name them for reasons right now, but hopefully they come around. Otherwise, we're going to be in that same boat of taking more action. We've already been in the courts with them. There's a decree, and they're not even following that. So sometimes, unfortunately, we have business owners, apartment owners that are part of national, REITs or investment groups, and they just don't have anybody locally on the ground that has equity in the game or cares. And sometimes it takes a lot to get those owners' attention. On a different note, everyone probably remembers the St. Paul cybersecurity incident. We had an attempt at our doors and we repelled it. Nothing was gained, but there's always attempts with every city, with every company these days. It's an unfortunate byproduct of technology that hackers are always trying to gain access. In this case, they were trying to make a purchase through a credit card, a page in our parks area, and they tried 31,000 times, and it was rejected every single time. But the incident is one of those that we report to the state when that happens. But cheers to our technology firewalls and anti-hacking because they were never able to get through. The school resource officer program is still in negotiations, but recent meetings before the school started allowed the school resource officers to join the school students or the students at the schools while negotiations continue. And with the new supervisor of ISD 181 coming into the negotiations, we're very hopeful and everyone is very positive that this is going to get resolved. We'll have a new contract in place, but we're really happy that the school district was willing to utilize the past contract to just continue the services. They recognize the importance of having these officers in the schools. We put in for a grant for a mobile command post. That's a very expensive, big RV kind of thing with all kinds of technology and law enforcement connecting with other law enforcement agencies. It's used in the South Metro area. Other cities sometimes call upon it, so it's a mutual aid asset for a lot of cities. It's an over $1 million grant request, so hopefully we get it. So far, everything has been approved through the steps that it's gone through. And then a real interesting thing to close out. Um, I've been a part of the community since 1999, and the Nicolet Commons Park has all of these bricks that have people's names on them, and that have dedicated and paid to have the dedication, a memorial brick, that kind of thing. I believe I don't know. Jennifer may be able to comment on this. The Burnsville Community Foundation was at the heart of all that, and I've always wondered, like, where are all the, like where is my brick or where's my friend's brick or someone else's brick? Like, you really have to walk the whole place, which is not a bad thing, but the community now can access an online tool to view the location and the photo of every paver at Nicolet Commons Park. So I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't actually know that staff was working on that or the community foundation, but I think it's a great idea. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. And yes, the Burnsville Foundation continues to be the catalyst for memorial pavers, benches, things like that. So if anyone's interested in that, they can go to the Burnsville Community Foundation website and learn more about that. But yeah, it's exciting to have that resource to be able to find them.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Dan. Next, we're pleased to hear from Scott Hume, school board member from District 191. Scott will provide some insights on what's happening with our schools now that we're back in session. Welcome, Scott.
Good morning. That's probably the biggest headline, but to start, I'll thank Dan for mentioning the continued presence of the SROs at the high school. That was also going to be in my update, so thank you for that. And yes, we're very happy to have them in the building at the start of the school year and look forward to negotiations on the contract being finalized very soon. Other updates, our new superintendent began back in early July. Obviously, she spent a lot of time since she started getting to know people, learning from and listening to district staff, members of the community, board members, and more about the district's strengths and opportunities. On August 21st, I know some of you were present for the State of the District address that she did at Diamond Head Education Center in partnership with the Chamber, and she talked at that event about her vision of moving the district from a hidden gem to a shining star. And that's a theme that she also spoke about at an all-staff welcome back event that was held at Burnsville High School on Monday, August the 25th, which is the first day that teachers were back to work before the start of school. So very excited to have her, and I think she's doing a great job in her 2 months that she's been here so far. Other than that, the new school year did indeed start this week. So as you can imagine, it's been a very busy week of welcoming new and returning students, families, and staff back into our buildings as fall begins, and it even is suddenly feeling like fall outside. So this weekend, Dr. Daniels and several board members are participating in assorted festival and fire muster festivities, most notably the parade tomorrow. So if you're at the parade, give us a wave. We'll be there. And then a couple other updates. The sale of Metcalf is still pending final approvals, which we hope to get in the next few months. That's been going on. Those of you who've been coming to these meetings for a while, I think it was 2022 was when the sale was first agreed to. So it's been a long process. So we're hoping that that does indeed get finalized and closed in the next few months. And then finally, I know many of you have asked in the past about enrollment data. We do typically get that later in the fall. I think the state headcount is October 1st, thereabouts. So we would get that the official enrollment data, which of course affects our state funding and such, and later this fall. The expectation that we made when creating the budget for this year is that there would be a decline. But over the last few years, the decline has been slowing, which we take as a good sign. It's not dropping by as much as it was, and some of the decline is no doubt at this point attributed to a declining birth rate, where we just don't have kindergarten classes that are as large as the outgoing senior classes. So, yeah, I think those are all the updates I had for today. So I'll keep it short and sweet.
Great. Thank you, Scott. And yes, thank you for the partnership. The State of the District event was wonderful and great to meet and hear from Dr. Daniels, the new superintendent. We also got to wrap up. We have a number of different partnerships with the school district through the chamber, and that was tied into our teacher externship program this year. So our teachers, the 12 teachers that were participating in that program that got to go to 4 different businesses over 2 days, and then come to the State of the District and then have a debrief and talk about how they could bring that experience into the classroom.
And I've heard very positive things about that program, definitely. So
It's really one of my
seems like it was a
favorites.
success. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites to see the teachers get inspired and really think about what's happening outside the classroom and how they can bring that inside the classroom for their students. So I think it's just a win-win. I think they come out a little energized. They also get to see how much the community supports them. That's one thing that they always hear from our employers is how much our employers care about what they do.
Mhm.
And I think that buoys them a little bit going into the school year. And
Definitely.
then you know, just that opportunity to help their students prepare for the, workforce opportunities that are out there. So thank you for those continued partnerships and thank you for the
Absolutely.
update.
Thank you.
So I'll give just a couple quick chamber updates here. We have coming up next week, our AM coffee break for September will be at Architectney. It's going to be a really fun one. Find out what Architectney is, and I think they have some prizes and stuff too. September 16th, our Out to Lunch will be hosted at Original Pancake House. And then September 25th is our Fall Fling Sporting Clay Challenge. I hope you can join us for that. That's always a great day, afternoon out. And yeah, and save the date for our business after hours, October 2nd at Element Golf. And of course, save the date for our Mingle and Jingle holiday social on December 11th. So lots of great things going on. You can always go to the chamber website. As we started this off, and Dan mentioned, I mentioned that it's Burnsville Festival and Fire Muster weekend. So that goes on tonight and all day tomorrow. Please hop on the Burnsville Festival and Fire Muster website to see all the schedules, concerts, transportation. Best way to get there is to park at the transit center and hop on the shuttle that'll drop you right off at the entrance. And so lots of fun things this weekend. And the chamber helps host the information booth there, so you can come and see us over there. Okay. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce our featured presenter this morning. We're thrilled to have Scott Plum, founder of Minnesota Sales Institute. Scott specializes in helping businesses grow through strong sales conversations, something we can all benefit from. So please help me welcome Scott Plum.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Jennifer. Great to be with you today. I'm going to get set up on sharing my screen, and there's also a handout if you wanted to follow along and go to this website. You'll be able to get a copy of my slides and see what I'm talking about. But I wanted to first open up and give you a little bit of background about who I am. I don't do this very frequently. I always have an attitude or a position that people didn't come to hear about me. They came to hear about the content, and I wanted to share the content with the attendees. But the first chamber that I ever joined was in 2002. I joined the St. Paul Chamber, and that's where I met Bruce Newstead back in the day. And that's because I started the Minnesota Sales Institute in 2002. So I launched the business, and the first thing that I did was join the chamber. I've been a member of the Burnsville Chamber for 2 or 3 years. As soon as I moved to Burnsville from downtown Minneapolis in 2002, for a couple of reasons. One is Minneapolis was no longer being fun anymore. It wasn't a great spot to live, and there wasn't a lot of evening activities, which I always enjoyed. And I got called to be a juror for the 2 officers that killed George Floyd, and I got a nice little invite from Hennepin County in March. And as I was filling out the voir dire, I said, boy, I'm perfect for this. But I did not want to be on the juror, as exciting as it would be. And the first thing they said in that voir dire was, you cannot tell anybody that you have been chosen to be on the juror. And it was a 23-page voir dire, and I started thinking about moving out of the county at that point, and I moved back to Dakota County. So great to be here. I'm also the past president of the Professional Sales Association. I did that for 3 years, and then became the president of the Sales and Marketing Executives, which was started in 1927, and unfortunately during COVID just did not survive. Not a lot of activity and not a lot of money in the bank to be able to keep that going. I wrote a book called Taking Off into the Wind, Creating Lift Out of Life, and published that in 2015. And I've been doing a podcast called Winning at Selling with Bill Hellkamp since 2020. I took it over from a guy named Steve Kloida, who unfortunately passed away in 2019. And Bill and I knew Steve, and he's the past president of the Professional Sales Association. And we talked to Steve's widow about taking it over, and have grown it to become, one of the top podcasts in the world. It's ranked in the top 1%. If you're ever curious about a podcast, listening to it and see how it ranks, you can go to listennotes.com, type in the name of the podcast, and it'll tell you what the ranking is. So we've done over 285 episodes. We do it every single week. Our latest episode that we just posted yesterday is with the amazing Hondo, who is a magician who taught at St. Paul Cretin High School, where I went to high school. And I graduated in '84, and that was the last year that Hondo was teaching, and he retired and got into the magic business. So we've known each other for over 40 years. Great episode. Another one is with Stevie Ray. If you know Stevie Ray doing the improv, he gave us some great insights about not negating when it comes to improv. Improv is about listening, not always trying to be funny or creative. Great information on that podcast. And I've listened to it 3 times. It's just every time I listen to it, I learn something new. So there's some great content, even if you're not in selling, although I think everybody is in sales one way or another. I wanted to talk about 5 things today, and I want to create some interaction. And if you're able to have your camera on, great. It's nice to see you. If you want to raise your hand and give a comment, that's great too. If you're driving and not able to have the camera on, I certainly understand that. And I would encourage you to unmute and just interrupt me. I always like to have an interactive session, and I'm okay with kind of playing the role of the chump. So if you want to play Stump the Chump, ask me a question. And that's how I learn. That's how I find out what's most important to the audience and the people that I serve. And feel free to interrupt me. So I'd like to have an interactive conversation. So the top 5 things that I've noticed in the marketplace that are changing is people are really selling on price over value. Some time ago, I was in my office when I had an office, and I got a knock on the door, and 2 salespeople walk in, and they're from a catalog office supply company. and they look at my printer and they say, "Oh, I see you have that Brother 2170 printer. I can save you money on toner." And I stand up and I look at my shoes and I look at them and I go, "Why do you guys got to be like that?" And they go, "Be like that? What do you mean be like that?" I said, "You come into my office and then you insult me." Insult you? How did I insult you? I said, "Well, you told me I don't know how to buy toner. You're telling me I don't know how to run my business. You don't know where I buy my toner. You don't know why I buy my toner there. And you're telling me that if you can save 10 cents on toner and you leave, and 5 minutes later, somebody else comes into the office and says, 'Hey, I can save you money on toner,' and it's 10 cents less than what you're telling me that I should buy from them." And they said, "No, no, I didn't." I said, "Yes, you did. You told me that I should buy on price when I really look for the best value." And when we have a mentality that people are always buying on price, we will discount the value that we're offering. And when you try to sell on price, it's a race to the bottom. And we've seen companies go out of business that's selling on price. If you remember Ultimate Electronics or you remember Circuit City, and those were just popular just in that brand or that category. There are many others that focus on price and eventually go out of business because you're not selling on value. Value then gets to number two, which is the undefined value proposition. So companies don't know what makes them stand out that's not available anyplace else. And when we have a creative approach to value, we're offsetting the commoditization of a product or service. And a commoditization is just comparing money and price and the dollar to be able to determine how people should spend their money. That's not selling on the best value, that's selling on the cheapest price. But because companies don't leverage something that's totally unique with their selling proposition to be able to stand out and to be that scarce source, prospects don't know about it. Salespeople are not offering it. They're not delivering values when we have conversations, and they end up reverting back to cutting the price to win the business. Number three is there's a lot of sales automation. There's broadcast emails. We can get into HubSpot and do sequencing. We can subscribe to other third-party programs about constantly sending emails and adjusting them accordingly and really bombarding our prospects. But not having a personal outreach by just simply picking up the phone and calling them, writing them a note after you talk with them, and sometimes getting an address is a challenge, and sometimes you have to ask for it. During COVID, I remember people writing a thank you note on a handwritten, stationery. They take a picture of it and they'd email a picture of it to the person. So they didn't mail it, but they did tell them that I took the time to write the note and I wanted you to be able to have it and let you know that I was thinking of you. So having that personal outreach is really going to make it a lot easier to stand out and to have that personal conversation with somebody and to break away from just the automation of sales. I mean, people say sales enablement. I'm like, I'm not sure what that really is, but I think it's in the area of training salespeople on how to be more productive. On the number four, they're concentrating too much on the specifications and not the personal motivations. Value is defined by the application of a product or service, not the specifications of it. But we get into communicating information and not knowing what's really important. What is emotionally going to move a person to make a decision because we don't have that personal motivation. Why is this important to you? Why is this important to you now? What other options are you considering? And what has happened in the past that you want to make a change today to consider other options? And then the fifth one is the mismanagement of time. So often salespeople rely on marketing, or they rely on referrals, or they rely on word of mouth, and they're not being proactive about starting new conversations. Even if you picked up the phone and called 3 new people today, attempted to have a conversation with them, you did that every single day, you'd be amazed how many people that you meet, how often you get into those lifelong conversations, and to be able to be more proactive and starting conversations versus just waiting for the phone to ring. So I'll pause there and ask our audience if there's any other challenges in the marketplace, anything that you've seen that you're struggling with or you want to overcome. And I'll widen it just from sales to having those conversations, to really becoming more influential, to be able to communicate an idea that you have in your head, to be able to pick the words to use to share with that other person so that they hear the words, understand the meaning of those words based on their perception or their past experiences, to break down what your intent is that you thought of with the idea that you wanted them to share or to know about. It's amazing we're able to communicate sometimes at all. But any challenges that our viewers have that they're struggling with, that they wish, boy, if I could do this, this would be so much better. So I'll do a 15-second pause and ask if anybody wants to submit anything.
Scott, I find it hard
Yes.
to pick up the phone and call someone
Mm,
because I feel like I almost always get a voicemail.
right, right.
That is one of the hardest things for me. So I love the idea of calling 3 people and right, but I'm like, duh,
Mhm.
no one picks up the phone. They all want to text me today.
Yes, they do. And texting is just, like watching the stock ticker. When it's gone, it's gone.
Hmm.
Another one comes in and now like, oh gosh, my family members, and I come from a large family, and they love to text. And I said, boy, am I really grateful when I get an email and you want me to do something for the family and it's not a text message because now I can manage it in my email and get it done. But if I could share a solution or an idea, is those voicemails, those are an opportunities to lay down a commercial. And by piquing their interest and curiosity in that voicemail message, what is the goal? The goal is for them to be inspired, to find something that they find valuable, that's important to them, to be able to consider calling you first. Let's just start there. And every time you lay down a voicemail message, if you say, if I don't hear from you, I'll call you back in 2 days. What are they going to go? Oh man, I better return the call because she's going to call me back in 2 days. And you know what they do? They don't call you back. So what happens? You call them back in 2 days. And you say, I left a message a couple of days ago. I said I was going to be calling back. I wanted to follow through on my promises because that's the type of credibility and the reputation that we want to have when we're working with our customers. Because you're really buying the commitment that we have to the service, to our customers, and to our reputation in the marketplace. And I'd be grateful to have an opportunity to have have a conversation. And if I don't hear from you in 2 days, I'll call you back again. And in 2 days, you call them again and you say, I just want to follow through on my last voicemail. I said I was going to call you back, and I did. And I don't want to assume you have any problems in this area or that you even need my help and cleaning services, right? Am I remembering that correctly? And now the person is like, wow, Sherry is certainly sounding different than everybody else. There's no automation with this. This is back end automation. You're using Salesforce or HubSpot or an Excel spreadsheet. Whatever you're doing, you're keeping track of that. And I wrote a chapter in my book on the value is defined by the persistence of the salesperson with the prospect. And when you're following through on this commitment that you're defining, because you're saying, if I don't hear from you in 2 days, I'm going to call you back, you're creating a promise, you're fulfilling that promise, and you're adding credibility. And are you standing out? Is anybody else doing that? I can assure you, nobody else is doing that. I'm in the chamber directory. I get emails from people that want to clean my office, and I have a home office, so I don't have an office. And they never, never, never call, and they never, ever call, leave a message, and then say, if I don't hear from you, I'll call you back in 2 days. I'm kind of curious. There's two things when I give advice is number one, that you have to believe that the advice will work. And number two is that you have to believe that you deserve a better life and that you deserve better results when you practice the advice that I give you. So, Sherry, I'm going to put you on the spot. Are you comfortable with that position or using that advice?
Yes, definitely. And I've found it to work. I haven't done it very recently. I do a lot of networkings, and that's how we get a lot of our customers.
Okay.
But it definitely works. I mean, I've tried it in the past, and I can say that, people like getting calls and, at least to think about it. And like you said, just being persistent and them knowing that you will follow up on your word, I think is really big nowadays.
Is there a unique selling proposition that you have that makes you stand out from everybody else that they're not able to offer?
I mean, we're very customizable. Some people, only do certain types of cleanings. We can go once a month, once a year, even. And I feel like our prices are, very affordable. I know you said, don't go on the selling, but I would like to think that, we don't price it too high. Also, we use very clean ingredients, so no harsh chemicals or anything, because I know a lot of people have pets, kids that lick on everything, the floor. So yeah.
Good, good.
One thing I can say, Scott, because I
Yeah,
use
please.
Squeaky Services, is their customer service response.
Okay.
If I have any kind of issue, I'm telling you, it's quick and can I meet you at the site? Let's walk through it. So their response time is fabulous.
Wow.
Thank
That's
you.
great. That's great. Sherry, here's a question if you wanted to consider asking some of your clients that you've been working with over, I would even say as short as a 3-month period, is asking them the question, how do you define what we do? And let them tell you what they find most valuable. So Corey just shared one thing that she finds most valuable. But if you ask all of your clients that, I'm kind of curious, how do you describe what we do? Are you going to get a multiple time, you're going to get one answer, well, you clean and, you make everything look good. And then you're going to get a variety of other answers. And what is most important about that question is that you know what is most important to every one of your clients. And what is the one thing that you cannot stop is
Yeah.
delivering the value that they find worth paying for.
Right.
That's what they're doing is they find that I find this most valuable and this is what I'm paying for. Now you've just matched. You've got price, you've got value, you've got exchange. Everybody is happy. And that can be a great question for any of us to ask. No matter what we do, whether it be personal relationships or business volunteering is, how do you describe what I do? How do you describe what we do? And you're going to get a variety of answers. And it's always interesting to see how people interpret what you do. And that's building on a relationship and a reputation as well, because you know, in some cases, what your unique selling proposition is for them. But if we don't have that personal outreach and we don't have that personal motivation, it's tough for us to really uncover what that is. I'm kind of curious, any comments or questions so far? I'm going to go through a little bit detail into these 5, but I don't want to be assumptive that I know everything that's most important during our call today. We've got about 15 minutes left to cover some stuff. So anybody want to weigh in on anything else? Corey, thanks for your submission. And I'm keeping an eye on the microphone so I can see everybody is muted. Jennifer, did you have anything to add or we're continue to roll?
Continue to roll, yeah.
Okay, all right. All right, so getting into a little bit more detail, and again, I think if we are starting to live the questions, we're going to be able to contemplate our own answers. And when it comes to price over value, I gave you the story about the toner. Asking yourself and really thinking about how would your prospects answer this question? What's the cost, consequences, and risk of the prospect not solving this problem today? When they're talking with you, what happens if they don't do anything? And I'll give you another question is, what does the prospect experience in the absence of the value your solution provides? So what does the prospect experience in the absence of the value your solution provides? So if they did not buy from you today, what would they experience? If you looked at some of the areas that you spend money and what would you pay for and buy and subscribe to and purchase, if you didn't have that, what kind of experience would you have? You can start with your cell phone. I mean, if I forget my cell phone in the car and I walk into the store and I don't have my cell phone, I start to panic because I didn't know where I left it. And I'll run out to the car and sure enough, there it is. I mean, it's incredibly emotionally triggering how when we don't have something that we want, desire, and valuable, and we don't have it, what kind of experience do we go through? I feel bad for these homeowners in Florida and California that deal with homeowners insurance, where they got companies that are just simply not providing insurance anymore. How do you, I mean, It's like buying a house in Cabo. You can't get a mortgage on a house in Mexico. You have to pay cash for it. Banks don't lend on houses in Cabo. And in some cases, when you buy a house in Florida or California, you just hope for the best because you can't buy insurance. So think about the services that you offer and what happens when the prospect doesn't buy from you. What do they experience? And then also, what about the salesperson? What about a salesperson that has a valuable offering, a valuable service, but they can't communicate it through a unique selling proposition to be able to have a prospect pay the price to extend, to buy value that the salesperson is offering? And what happens if the salesperson is not willing to pay the price to develop their sales skills so that they can become more valuable to a prospects and the marketplace? Getting into the unique selling proposition, undefined value propositions. This is what makes you unique. How do you fight the commoditization? I read a book some time ago. Of course, it's not going to come up with 0 to 1, and it's written by Peter Thiel, who is one of the original founders in Facebook, and he worked with Elon Musk launching PayPal. And there's a chapter in here about how he compares airline seats to Google and how Google creates a creative monopoly and how airline seats create a commoditization. And if you can crack the code of figuring out how can we be so unique that nobody else can duplicate what we do, now you what they call a creative monopoly. And Peter Thiel took his 401k and invested it into Facebook for funding, which means all of the gain that he gets from Facebook is in his 401k and he doesn't have to pay taxes on it. I mean, if you think about anybody more brilliant than that when it comes to money, I'd be curious about. I mean, there's Ray Dalio and of course Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, but when you start looking at putting money to use and not paying taxes on it, that is a very strong, unique selling proposition. If you think hard enough, you may be able to come up to something that your prospects are really looking forward to. The sales automation, how do you separate yourself from the noise and create more signal? I saw a brief little video on Mr. Wonderful, Kevin Leary, I think his name is, and he talks about of all the people that create noise, and there's so much noise in my inbox every single day. And you think about the people that have more signal than noise. And he talks about working with Steve Jobs, and he says Steve Jobs was a lot of signal. I mean, he was like 10% noise, 90% signal. He said there's only one person that has 100% signal and no noise. Anybody want to take a guess who that might be? Elon Musk is who he describes. He says Elon Musk is just pure signal. And I listened to his book. It's 20 hours, I think 20 hours listening to the book on Elon Musk. And it's absolutely fascinating to hear the stories and the decisions and the struggles that he had to endure to be who he is today. So think about getting more personal outreach, more signal and less noise. Concentrate on the specifications over the personal motivations. Value is defined in the application of a product or service and the outcome that it delivers. What do I sell? I sell sales training. Well, that's a process. What do I sell? I sell outcomes. What is my competition? My competition is inaction. People doing nothing. People showing up, they go, oh, that's a great idea, Scott. Oh, I should think about that. And oh, I think I'll do it myself. Okay, that's not uncommon. Great. If you're going to do it yourself, what are you going to do tomorrow that you didn't do yesterday that's going to give you the results that you want that you don't currently have? Cue the crickets. People just don't know where to start. And when we think about the personal motivations, that's what's most important to that individual, which can be common with a group of customers buying a certain product. But what is that motivation for them to do it now with all of the different choices that they have to make and the information and the specifications, what's going to be most influential? So I love the saying is when you're working with a prospect, a customer, client, to educate to influence, not educate to teach. So are you giving information or are you leading with influence? Are you asking enough questions early on to find out what's most valuable to them so that when you get to that presentation mode or you get to that solution step or you're putting together that proposal, what is in the proposal, including the quote, which is money, what is in the proposal that's going to be most influential? How are you going to define the current situation that the prospect shared with you, including their personal motivation as to why they want to change and what they're expecting and working with you? Are you using that information to influence or are you using the information to teach? It's like David McNally. I don't know if some of you have heard him. He is a speaker. Even Eagles Need a Push, I think was one of his talks. And listening to the amazing Hondo on the latest podcast, he said Dave McNally went in to buy a car, very busy guy. He told the salesperson, here are 4 things that I want to have in a car. And the salesperson said, well, let's go over and look at this one. This one has those 4 things. David McNally looked at it and said, I'll take it. As they sit down to start filling out the paperwork, the salesperson says, oh, in addition to that, the car does this and this and this and this. And David said, I don't care about those things, and it sounds like I'm paying for them. It sounds like I'm overpaying for the car because I'm paying for stuff that I don't find valuable or things that I don't really care for. And he didn't buy the car. So sometimes when we try to think that we're adding on value, we end up presenting stuff that people are paying for that they don't find valuable, that they don't want to give money up for. I mean, I think there's an insurance company that has a slogan of something like that. I think I might be related to somebody who sells insurance that works for that insurance company. But why do people want to interject stuff that prospects don't find valuable that they have to give up more money to buy? Doesn't make any sense. Lastly is the mismanagement of time. Is we have order takers. We don't have salespeople. How much time are people prospecting? How are you filling the pipeline and managing those incoming leads? I've worked with more than one company that will spend 10 days or 2 weeks, however long the fair is. And I'm not kidding. They will come back to their office and they will have 1,000 leads that they got at their booth in the grandstand during the fair. And I am not exaggerating. It will take them a year to follow up on those leads. Really. I think they found somebody else to do the kitchen cabinets or resurface the garage floor within that time period. How are you managing those incoming leads? You got to have a program to manage those. And when it comes to goals and managing your time, are you working on the lagging goals or the leading goals? So often I ask, people, what is your goal? Well, we need to sell $30,000 in a month. Okay, let's back that up. What are some of your leading goals? What do you mean, a leading goal? What steps are you doing at the beginning of the pipeline to be able to get that 30,000? How many customers are you selling to get that 30,000? How many customers, prospects do you need to talk to 3 months ago in order to get to this point to get to 30,000? So we're not managing these leading activities that start filling the pipeline. How many new people are you talking to every day? Start with 3. I mean, once you do 3, you go, wow, that was easy. Try to do it again. Oh, that was easy. Try to do it again. Oh my. Now I'm putting new people into my process and I'm following up on the messages that I left. And that's why I say, start with a lower number and consider 3 times. So you got 3 people, you're calling them 3 times, boom, boom, boom. It's over with. You got new people coming through. And that last call, that last message was, I really appreciate you listening to my messages. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have an opportunity to talk with you and a chance that we may talk. This is going to be my last phone call. I am really excited about working with our customers, and they all start with prospects. So I need to find more prospects that I can leave messages for to turn them into customers and clients. And this is the last message. I wish you well. I hope we cross paths in the future. If anything changes, please call me back at your next available opportunity. You tell somebody that you're not going to call them back after you laid down 3 messages, and what's that prospect thinking? I never had a chance to really get to know this person. I wonder what I am missing because this person really stood out from everybody else that has ever called me and there's not a lot of calls that come in. I mean, right now with sales trainers in our industry, with podcasts, et cetera, is they're starting to rejuvenate their prospecting. They're starting to really focus on prospecting more and making phone calls. So in putting some of these challenges together and some of the solutions together, we've come up with a syllabus to put a sales class together starting in 2026, January. I've got the topics that we're going to cover here, the dates that we're going to be cover. Easter is on April 5th, so we're bouncing over that. And we want to be able to talk about setting the stage and the opening of a sales process, the value proposition, the ideal client customer profile. How can we prospect in an effective way where we're using those personal outreach and not the sales automation? How do we create an agenda for that first meeting to cover everything that's important that the prospect wants to talk about and that we want to share? What kind of questions can we ask in the discovery that really go from information to emotions and not just staying on the surface? What kind of follow-up plan can we have where we're giving more information back to them that they're looking for, and then getting that proposal put together, which includes the quote, not just the quote, which is only the money, and then gaining commitment where we end up finding a solution together. It's not their way, it's not our way, it's together, and it's a better way. And then how do we deal with adversity? What kind of behaviors can we incorporate, attitudes and motivations as a salesperson to continue to do this day after day, week after week, month after month? So the training will be held at the Better Business Bureau, and we're proposing Mondays from 3 to 5 p.m. And feel free to reach out to me or the chamber, and we're gaining more and more information about the level of interest in this. And we're excited about working with the chamber about training the chamber members that do not necessarily have the opportunity to improve their sales skills, because in most cases, it's not personal, it's not financially feasible, or one reason or another, it's not very effective. And we believe that the interaction, the on-site, the in-person training is the most effective way of creating sales growth. So I want to close with a couple of quotes. I love Jim Rohn's, "Formal education will make you a living, self-education will make you a fortune." Stephen Covey's great one is, "I'm not a product of my circumstances, I'm a product of my decisions." Tony Robbins, your life changes the moment that you make a new, congruent, and committed decision. Tony Robbins. And lastly, I'll close out with Henry Ford's. I love this quote: "What's worse than training your people and losing them? Not training them and keeping them." And think about an investment in training as a commitment to your employees, and it's a commitment into their lives and their futures that you can get the credit for. So I'm grateful for the time. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share and preview the program that we have coming up. So thank you. Jennifer, back to you.
Scott, thank you so much. What a treat. I know everybody I know I was taking notes. I've heard you speak, you and I have talked, and I learned something every time. So thank you for
My pleasure.
sharing those insights this morning. As Scott said, we've been in conversations for a few months with Scott and Bill about putting on a sales training class for chamber members and for others, but I think they have so much to offer. It would be a great opportunity. And I hope that you will give us our feedback. We're going to wrap up the recorded part of our program now, but we're going to stay on with our attendees and open up the floor for further questions that you might have of Scott, or further discussions about the potential of this class, because I know Scott and Bill would like some feedback on how to make the class something that everybody can benefit from. So I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. I'm going to end our recording as soon as I find the stop record button. I swear they keep moving it.
They do.
But yeah, so thank you so much, and we'll stay on with our guests here. The last thing I do want to share here is that any chamber member can log into your member information center and click on resources to preview this and previous recordings. This year so far, we've had legislative updates, 35W Bridge project updates, 11 workplace mandates you need to know, and Burnsville Economic Development Strategic Framework. So, and now this one will be added to that queue. So lots of great information for our chamber members, and I hope you log in and take advantage of that. Thanks so much and have a great day.